Well, here I am, a little bit late. Sorry, I'm a little bit, 1 minute late. There we go. The show goes on. And I'm live. I just want to check that I'm live, just to be sure, You know how it goes. Let me just see what's going on here. No. Well, the energies are certainly rife. I've just had, I've just had a very, very traumatic evening, but it was a release, and I'm sure that I'm going to tap into this very shortly now. The energies are very, very powerful, and there are some interesting things that have happened in my own relationships with my children in the last few days, which is why I felt it important to share an update on the kids in the Twin Flame Union and kids in general that are ascending and waking up. So I think it's really important information that I've gleaned through experience, and I can only share truth, my truth, and experience, and hope that it resonates with you guys. So let me just quickly send this 1 second, and I'll be right back with you. So yeah. Okay, now I can focus. Now you have my undivided attention. So yeah, today was incredible. The energies have been since last night. I was walking with a friend last night, and he's wearing flip-flops and a t-shirt, and it's like I'm wearing a jacket with a jumper because I was cold. And he said, I could feel the energy. It's warm. My feet are hot. My head is hot. And yeah, that moment, this surge of energy came through here, particularly. I don't know about anywhere else. And it was like a magical, uplifting energy. And it just blossomed, and just pure love energy. And so many confirmations were coming in on what I've been experiencing, on what I've been seeing, what I've been working on with respect to my role in my project, and the connections with people. They're transforming, and it's becoming a beautiful show of like a Disneyland firework display. That's the easiest way for me to describe it. And now feeling all of this stuff from my own kids, my own children, particularly my 15-year-old, who has this role within her to get to the bottom of my connection with my paternal family. And you know, I believe I've dealt with it, I've healed it, I've healed it within me. And it's always come up for discussion with Amy, the topic of my family. And I'm only willing to go so far I'm only willing to go to a certain boundary in explaining what happened. She's read my book. She did meet my grandmother, and I had a very good connection with my grandmother and grandfather. So it's nothing to do with my parents. So the weekend I was interrogated, and it was quite interesting because it started to trigger me, and I started to think, oh, I need to say, Amy, we've discussed this before. I don't want to go down it, but I know I allowed her to open up, and I encouraged her to open up. And then she was like going through my Facebook friends, and I have 2 family members on my Facebook friends. She said, who's this? I said, she knows who it is. I said, that's my auntie. She said, okay, I'm sending a message. I said, please do, you know, this is for you. This is your exploration and your journey. And if you feel that you want to reach out, and just don't have any expectations. I said, yes, but I'm afraid that I may not get a reply. And I said, well, you'll never know unless you send it. And we were having a session. It was like a session, yeah. And maybe that is the way that I approached it, as a session, like a session with a client. And I've just touched on that with one of my students just before I came on air, about how when we change the descriptive label that we apply to relationships, and we change the word, like relationship's a connection, isn't it? It's a connection between 2 people. So if you treat it as a connection and view it as a connection, you don't have this duality. It's boyfriend, girlfriend, mother, father, sister, mother, sister, uncle. It's a connection between two people. It's not a relationship. And if you apply this to your own persona and your own psyche and your own journey, if you take away the label, if you've had let me give you an example. You had an abusive upbringing. Your mother and father were not really nice people, but for the sake of it and for the sake of whatever family connection, you still have that relationship for the sake of it. And every time it's toxic, it's whatever you do, you're keeping it for the sake of keeping it because society says that's the way it should be. But if you take away the word mother, father, and put the word human being, and you change the word relationship to connection, what have you got? You've got a human connection. So then you ask yourself the question, I have this human connection. I love them. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but I love them. And I care for them, but I'm not happy to accept this all of your life. So you've taken control. So you've become the adult. So what are you doing? You're asserting your power. You're asserting how you want to communicate. So it's a connection. So if you have a toxic relationship with your parents or your family member or anybody in your life, and you love them and you care for them, you take away the label of whatever it is and change it to connection and apply some logic and some real reality, 3D reality, because we're living here, because we have to look at it from that as an adult perspective, Sorry, I've digressed, but it's part of the story, so we have to go here. We've established control of ourselves. We've defined our boundary. We love you, we care for you, we're quite happy to communicate with you on a certain level, but we just don't want this necessity to be until I'm satisfied with these issues, or these things are addressed, or these things are changed. Until that point is reached, I don't want to spend really too much time with you, or any time with you, until you sort that shit out. That's an adult thing to say, isn't it? Because that's what you say to your friends. That's what you say to anybody that you come into contact with, because it's a connection. But as soon as you add a word like girlfriend, boyfriend, ex-wife, ex-husband, ex this, ex that, it becomes stigmatized. Which, because of the way our psyches have been programmed, and believe me, our psyches have been pre-programmed, because the psyche of today is nowhere near what it was 2,000 years ago. So we come pre-packaged with this new upgraded software, which is so fucked up, it's unbelievable. But there you go. I'm now going to explain some things, which may be a new discovery or a new thing, because this is channeled information. But you've come to a situation with this control, and you've asserted yourself. So these boundaries are yours, and you just need to hold to those boundaries, because this is the adult decision to make. And my daughter has made an adult decision. She's stopped being a child. And she wasn't spoken to like a parent. She was spoken to like an adult, and she acted like an adult, whichever context you want to put that into. So two adults had a conversation. They shared a connection. They exchanged energy. There was no labeling or stigmatizing. There was just truth. One wanted to do something which she expected her father to do, me. The father wouldn't do it. The adult encouraged her to do it how she wanted to do it, henceforth giving her power and the belief in herself to be able to make that adult decision, to overcome a fear, because even though she's her relative, great auntie, I don't even know what relative, she's my auntie, so it's her great aunt, I don't know, whatever, complicated. Because these labels just confuse things, don't they? It's a connection. I have a connection with my auntie, so she's written to my auntie. And the beautiful thing of this is, when Amy told me the other day, she said, Dad, I'm afraid I won't get an answer. And I said, you already have the answer, because you freed yourself to allow the answer to come. And whatever the answer will be, whatever it will be, it may be the end of your discovery, or it may be the beginning of a new discovery. And I didn't hear from her yesterday. I spoke to I didn't speak with my son, but my son is just growing. They've moved to a new location. And it's very cyclical. Them moving is so synchronistic. It's so cyclical. It's so our family. I can, as I say, our family cycle is 7 years. They're doing the same things that we were doing 14 years ago. And not 21 years ago, but me and my ex-wife nearly 15, 16 years ago. So whatever I'm doing, they're doing in a different way. Whatever we experienced as a family, as a connected people, we're still experiencing. We're just in different locations. We're doing the same things, just in a different way. And they moved literally a month ago to a new location. My son started playing football a couple of weeks ago. He scored 2 goals on the weekend. Wow. In a new school. So he's got confidence. He's got this spirit. He's brave. He's courageous. Kids that normally move to new locations have this fear. Oh, where am I going to fit in? He's going to score 2 goals. That's going to boost his confidence so much. He's empowered himself to achieve. He hasn't seen that he's moved to a new thing. He hasn't seen this loss or separation. He does miss his brother and sister in Melbourne. He misses me. He misses his family. But he has the love, the connection that he feels. He may not feel it every day as a 10-year-old, but when he does feel it, he wants to feel it back. And that's when he reaches out to me. And that's the relationship. That's the connection that we have. Maybe a unique connection, the same connection with my daughters. We've overcome this father-daughter role. We're adults. I look at them as adults. I look at them as my daughters primarily, but we treat each other like adults. And this has given them the freedom to be who they want to be, not their father's daughter or not their mother's daughter. They've become themselves, and they've become discoverers, adventurers. And I know what they're going to achieve in the future. This is just the beginning. And that shows the connection of love. They have to feel the power of love. They don't feel separated from their parents because they have that connection. They have that real connection. And if we as human beings, if we look at this mammal species, I'm throwing some stuff out here right now because they're facts. If we look at mammals as a whole, mammals follow seasons. Mammals follow Mother Nature. Very simple and basic. Very simple and basic. They know when it's time to migrate. They know where to go for food. They know when it's sunshine and dark. They know all these things. And why is that? Because of their senses. They feel. They feel when it's time to fly away. They sense when it's time to disappear down a rabbit hole. They're aware. Their responses, their natural reaction, their natural response is whatever comes into their vision or into their senses. We, human beings, our starting point, and this is maybe where it's going to get a bit deep into psychology, but it's something that I believe is important. And it's something that I've realized. If we look at humanity today, humanity is born with this pre-programmed mind, this super upgraded version of the natural, normal state of man. So as the brain has evolved, it's become into this pre-packaged form that we've got. And whatever we're told is that's what goes into our brain. So our brain never experiences its natural state, ever. Its raw natural state, its purest state. So it's already we're already born with a corrupted version. It's toxic. So when we look at psychology, or when we look at spirituality, or when we look at evolution, if we keep going back to the starting point, we're only ever going to overwrite what that psyche or that pre-programmed model it was. We're just going to go Control, Alt, Delete, and wipe out that memory and replace it with this truth of us. But it goes deeper than that, doesn't it? Because we're connected to people. We're connected to people that have issues or connection issues with us. We have healing to be done, and we have healing to be done in many aspects of ourselves, in our perception of society, in our perception mainly maybe of families. True definitions. We can see the true definition of families. We can see the true effect of unity. The old ancients and still the modern ancient cultures that are still here today are still living in love. They don't live in the structured Western society. This is, you can go to New Zealand and see for yourself. This is a 1.2 million culture. It exists. And it ain't going away. And I'm not going to politicize this, but I'm going to speak facts. The Maori was smart enough to sign a fucking contract with the Crown. It's called the Treaty of Waitangi. They were the only indigenous people to sign a treaty before they gave the fucking keys. Because the Maori were warriors. They loved their culture, they loved their country, they loved what they had, and they were charged to protect it. Their fate was to protect this glorious paradise. And all they had was sword. No, they didn't. They had spears and maybe machete. I don't know what they had back then. But what they did have was balls. They had courage to fight against arms, against aggression, against the white man. Come on, hello everybody. This didn't happen so long ago. They still stood up for their rights. They protected their people. They stuck to their word and their bond that they made from their creation. They understand what it means. They understand what the word family means. And most of these other indigenous tribes also do. But we, and I'm going to use we, colonists, all we've done is tried to wipe them off the face of the earth. Or enslave them. That's we, westernized people. That's our mentality. And where has it come from? It's come from this illusion. So that illusion has to be shattered, and it will shatter. And you can see it shattering now. It's falling, it's crumbling. Don't believe the bullshit about Russia. Please don't believe the bullshit about Russia. It's the biggest fucking joke under the sun. But enjoy your knowing and awareness that it is a joke. Laugh at it. Don't lower the vibration. Don't go down to their level, because you know they're talking shit and you know they're talking nonsense. I feel like David Icke at the moment. But if you just, I shared one of his videos earlier, but if you look at it, even the Russian television, Russia Today, they're just sitting there, they're fucking laughing. They're laughing at the European Union, they're laughing at America. And it doesn't matter. They're just getting on with their lives, and they're not throwing their toys out of their pram. So that shows you something that they've learned. And in much the same as the Maori culture, they defined their borders and tolerances, and they still defend the Treaty of Waitangi today. And I know that I've got a beautiful soul sister in New Zealand, and she will confirm that, because I know they do. They defend it, and it's protected, it's enshrined, it's respected. And they were also smart enough to get a whole shitload of money from the crown too. The only indigenous people in the world that did that. So they were smart, but they were just, what were they? What was the words that they used to define the Maori? They were heathens, barbarians, cannibalists, all of those things. But they negotiated with the crown, and they got their settlement, they got their rights, they got it all protected and defined. And those boundaries will never, ever, ever be encroached, because they have the majority, they have a big majority population. They're not a minority. And this is what colonists do. They push the majority out to form a minority. It's called divide and conquer. It's old tactics. It's old bullshit. But that's what they do. And when you know that, and you guys that are watching know that, but our kids, my kids in particular, you know, I didn't learn anything really interesting about the World War II until I went and lived in Moscow. I learned more about World War II in Moscow and what the Russians did in World War II than when I was in Moscow. It didn't exist in the British school system, and it definitely don't exist in the American school system, and it's certainly a lot destroyed in European history, how the role that Russia has played. So wherever you go, history is being changed. It's whatever topic it is today. Oh, 125 years ago, this happened. Who gives a fuck what happened 125 years ago, as long as it doesn't happen again? And that's the whole point of us waking up. And that's the whole point of our connections with our children, because our children know. And I know this because I'm a father, I'm a parent, I'm a dad. I have a connection with my kids, and I have a connection with many other kids. And I know that they're awake, and I know that they're waiting for us, our generation from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, to wake the fuck up and to get on and do what we need to do, and to change what we're doing in a way that benefits, whether it's our neighbor, our dog, our cat, our kids' school, whatever. Because our kids are waiting to see that initiative so that they can jump on. They're showing us, the same as the kids in America showed who they are. They showed their voice. But what did the parents do? And that is the most important thing. I walk my talk. My kids live their life, and I'm there. And they walk their talk too. And they live in peace and harmony with each other. They live in a multicultural society here, where there is racism, Serbs and Croats. We live here. It's here. 20 miles down the road. So we live it. We experience it, but we live with it. And if you take away all of this rhetoric, if you take away all of this hypocrisy and hot air that's flying around on the media, who are being affected? Not the people in power. The ones doing the talking, they're not affected by any of this. We are. We've got to walk down the road, and we've got to say hello to Tom, Jick, whatever, you know. And what's happening? They're causing division. And they're causing division within groups of groups. This is just classic divide and conquer. Guys, I can't see what you're typing because I haven't got my glasses on. And it's what we do with that information. So we know it's true or we know it's false. It's what we do with that information. That information that we share with others, the more people that realize that it's a crock of shit, the better. That's simple. So that's sharing of information. This is what we do as empaths. This is what we do as any advanced soul or as any human being. Let's use words like this, human being, because they're nice, because they're real, because that's what we all are. And maybe we'll accept each other as human beings instead of putting all these labels and things on them. So I think, you know, what we do with this information is important. How we share that information, how we put an objective point of view on this information that's out there. It's not supporting what's being said. It's saying, okay, here's what that's saying, but have a look at what this is saying. So you're giving people the other side. That lets them make their own decision. When you have the two sides to one story, you have to make a decision or you disregard it. When people don't have that choice, they don't have anything to gauge it by. And that's why media, certainly things like Twitter and Facebook are very, very dangerous. They're very, very impactful, very impacting instantly. It's an instant impact. And what that does is it triggers people, and they know this. If you type a word in Messenger, be sure within the next 10 minutes, you're going to see an ad about something around that word that you've used. 100%. If not 5 minutes, you'll see an ad, or you'll see a post about with a person's name. You know, you may be talking about John, and the next thing you'll do is see a fucking post from John, or you may be talking about Barbados, and then you'll see a post about Barbados. That's artificial intelligence, pre-selection, based upon what you're talking about with your friends. Come on, people, it's crazy. But what we do with that information, so we now need to communicate in another way. So we use what other alternative media we can to communicate what we want to say, our authenticity with other people in new ways. So people will move to MeWe, Camp, Steam It. They will move to all these new social media platforms where they can have proper conversations. Now they know that Facebook is toxic. You go somewhere else, or you leave yourself vulnerable. I mean, I have to shift off Facebook. I have to. And do I worry about whether 300 friends of mine disappear? No. If they want to find me, they'll find me. And that's the beauty about connections. And that's the beauty about who is meant for you in your life. If you still resonate with the old, you can use the old. There's no harm in using the old. But as long as you use it knowing full well what you're leaving yourself vulnerable to. And that's the point of it. If you shift completely, you know that you've changed, you've switched, but you can stay playing. It doesn't matter. Just be careful what you say and what you do. And you know, this is all, you can look at history. It's all the same. You can look at astrology, all of this. You know, I watched a Vedic astrologer last week who was giving the forecasts for April. Dudes, I'm telling you, he predicted before April, from the 26th of March onwards, he said trouble here, trouble there, trouble here, trouble there, violence, uprising, all the way through to the 10th of April. Bang, finished. And particularly in the United States. I've got all these notes here. God, I should share this information, shouldn't I? Because some of you guys may not have heard it, but may be important for you. You know, I've been making a lot of notes lately. So here we go. What dates? Okay, there was something about the 1st of April for sure. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Okay, 28th. Oh, that's tomorrow. 28th of March, particularly USA and Brazil. Civil unrest. This is what he predicted. 2nd of April, also South America, North America, markets in turmoil, big issues in America. 10th of April, big issues in the stock markets. 14th of April, big issues in the stock markets and conflicts. But there was a window of opportunity in sort of mid-April for there was some planetary aspect that came in that added a little bit of peace. But the underlying truth about this, or the underlying story about this astrology, we can look at astrology from a personal level. We can look at astrology from a family level. Not many people look at astrology from a country perspective or from a regional perspective, but it's real, and you can see it. And it's so cool. It's just so precise. And we're now, you know, I'll talk about Uranus coming into Taurus, which is happening on the 15th of May. What we're seeing now is the final rinsing of Uranus in Aries, which is all of this high level stuff. which is all of this governments and banking systems and all of this stuff being put under pressure, more truths, more high-level truths being revealed. Half of us don't know how many African countries lost their president this year, but there's quite a few, for sure. There's so much going on around the world that we don't have access to all of the information. But you'll be surprised if you look a little bit at some of the regional news sites, not the national news sites, the regional news sites. You'll see how much shit's gone down and how much has changed. And this should just give you oh, things are changing. You just don't feel it on your local level. And if you look at news, you look at news from a more of a global national level or an international level. So the perspective of the perspective, your psychology is affected on a global basis. So no longer are you bad-mouthing between two states, like adjacent states in one country or a village. We're now talking about nations or continents. So that's how we've got to. So now we're using social media to badmouth countries and presidents. Where's this come from? This is all a charade, but it's beautiful to see it because it's comical. And when you laugh at it, you know that it's all this. But these energies now, if you rise above, you're consciously aware of what may or may not happen. As long as you're consciously aware of it, if something happens, just, yeah, I remember. Okay, you can let it go. You can stop it affecting you. And you can stop it affecting others. Particularly if you say, let's say all of a sudden, I know, let's not go there. Anyway, but you know what I'm saying. You can share this knowledge because knowledge is power. And if you know that you believe something, you've read something and you believe it's true, maybe that will help so-and-so, so-and-so. Maybe that helped the rest of the world. I don't know. Just post it, share it. Because the more news, positive news, and the more the other side of the news, the good side of what's happening. Like I wanted sharing what's happened with my kids. So I'll go back to that story. So today, my daughter sent me a message on Facebook. She said, "Dad, never guess who am I speaking to?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "I'm speaking to your auntie." And I was sitting with my friend and I just said, "What? I'm speaking with your auntie." And she sent the message that my auntie had written to her, which was just so beautiful. It was like, I think it was, it filled the, let's say, I have to use hypothetical words because I can't understand, I can't feel what my daughter feels. I can imagine with the 200 words that my auntie wrote that filled whatever hole that she had within her, full of love and more. It was more than she expected because within the message was a message from my uncle saying that he would be happy to help her understand the family history, and gave his email address. My auntie gave her his email address, and she also gave me her regards. But it was a realization of family. Those are the values that I have. These are the values that I have. This is I believe, our role as adults, any family, any responsible family person, any adult really. If we see a kid in the street, it's not our kid, so but we should still care. It's like I said, take away the label. It's a connection. You see somebody in danger, you try and help them. Come on, people. This is what humans do. This is what connections are. But anyway, so the email from the message she got from my auntie was like, a similar situation happened in 2011 where I felt compelled to reach out to my parents. And I did speak to my mother, where she said to me that she didn't have an elder son. And obviously that ended that conversation with her. And then I spoke to my father and I said, "Look, my daughters would like to know who you are. My daughters would like to get to know their grandparents. They know you're real, they know you're alive, and they know some of my life story. And they just want to have that connection." And my father was very cold and he wasn't open to it. It was like basically, if your mother doesn't want you here, you don't exist, neither do I. So it was, for me, that was okay. I tried. I felt compelled. So I felt my soul. And I was writing a message today to one of us, and I realized that it's exactly the same time period, and it's either from 2011 or 2010 that I've done this before. And I remember exactly where I was living, what I was doing, and what I said. And I had a telephone number for my father, and my auntie was the catalyst then. So I know my auntie and I are connected. But what my brave little warrior princess daughter has done has opened the opportunity for healing a family connection that she's connected to in some way, shape, or form that she doesn't understand. But something is obviously guiding her to try to understand who her dad's family is. There's something they're missing. There's something like she's incomplete. But I think what it is that it's part of her soul mission to help us as a family to unite those connections, to reunite those connections, those love connections, not the toxic connections, the love connections. So we're using love to unite and to heal. So it's a healing energy. And with that, you're creating, in many ways, multi-generational healing. So if, for example, I've now opened up to the idea and the possibility, and it's something that those that know me know that talking about my parents is not on my list of priorities. It's not even on my agenda. So having that come into my life this evening and today is, am I going to seize the opportunity to do what love will do, is to heal and to try to find that connection that was there. And I also have to recognize that I'm talking about my auntie and uncle, and I've estranged myself from my auntie and uncle for no reason. That was my choice for no reason. And so I'm sort of miffed. So it's something that needs to be, it needs to be attempted to reunite, to heal whatever needs to be healed. And if that causes ramifications in the family, that it heals the family, that's beautiful. That's what it's about. So no matter our relationships, whether we heal them or not, is irrelevant. We will heal the connections that serve us and serve humanity, because that is what our soul will lead us and guide us to do, directly or indirectly. And now I'm thinking of ways and possibilities, but also terms in which I would be willing to sit face to face with my mother and father. And that's something very, very big, because I can look at this as an adult, as my daughter has done. And I shall stand as a role model alongside another role model and seek to heal that connection. And I've already emailed my uncle to thank him for agreeing to help Amy. I didn't go too much into anything or trying to explain anything. I just said that I'm willing. I have no excuses. I have no excuses. But if he's comfortable and feels comfortable that we can connect in some way to discover, then I'm willing to do that. And I've left it up to him whether he replies. But I've also put the proviso in there with regard to meeting. I went further to because I realized there's no ill feeling between me and my uncle or me and my auntie. There's no ill feeling. It was what I created. So I built that illusion to protect myself inadvertently. And if we look at roles within families, if we look at that definition of family roles, if we look at religious roles, if godfather, godmother, uncle and auntie, these are old tradition where if something happened to the parents, these would assume their responsibility and nurture children, the parents, the children, so the siblings. The siblings assumed responsibility. And that's what I see this is now playing out. And my auntie is being. I think she wasn't my godmother because she's not much older than me, but she's being how I see her role as an auntie in my life and my daughter's life, which is incredible, which is a connection. It shows there's a connection there and there's something worth exploring. So when we take away these labels, we can see things differently. When we apply different logic, when we apply the adult logic, everything is crystal clear. And maybe it's taken until this point in time for me to realize that. I've seen it before. No, I have seen it before. And I think that's the purpose of these cycles. If you're experiencing something you've done before, there's a reason for it. If you're re-encountered, like me with this situation with my family, again, it's reoccurred. It's a major thing that I would need to overcome. So I've done it. I've sent the energy out, which is honoring my daughter and honoring myself. So other things in my life have changed. Everything is just happening. Everything's bubbling. Everything's happening. Everything's alive. There's so much love. There's so much positivity around. And I'm able to rise above that low vibrational stuff. And I'm also able to look at things from an objective point of view. And I will start posting more, not controversial stuff. I'll be putting very objective posts into the public domain, because I used the word ashamed earlier about holding a British passport. Ashamed is not the right word, but it is the right word. I'm disgusted by their approach. And I look at this from a personal perspective as the head of a family, as if I was the head of a business, as the head of anything. Would I be saying these words to anybody without any fear of any? I wouldn't be doing it, because I know it would destroy any credibility that I had. And that means there are no morals. And only one thing will happen where there's no morals, and that is chaos and destruction. And that is what they want to create. But that's what they will create. Those that rise above that will create the world that they want to live in. And that is what we're charged with. Now we finally get to understand all of the multi-dimensional and multi-levels and multi-generational things that we are doing. It's a big job. It's a hard job. And I know that there's no way to go back, because there ain't no way that I can do anything that I've done before, because it was all an illusion. What I can do is take every ounce of positive experience and knowledge and wisdom from that and put it into good use, into something that I'm doing now. And guys, I can't believe what I've created. Well, I can, but it's the terminology is an expression. I can't believe what it is. It's real, and it's a fairy tale. It's fairy tale story. But when I was going through my waking up and going through my growth, and I was going through pain and suffering, real physical pain and suffering, and I know what my kids went through too, and I know the everything that they went through when they were living with me and when they were apart, living with their mum in Australia, for example, because we had that connection, we had that communication. So to see, it's sort of like I can't look at them as my children. They're not mine. They're divine beings. They are their own. They are their own sovereign beings, free. They're free. They're free to do whatever they choose. And that's how they live their life. If they want advice and guidance, they ask their mother and father. And that's one thing they do. They come to us and ask us for their advice, for our advice. And isn't that the best way for our kids to learn? They can get away with stuff that whether it's legal or not, it doesn't matter. If they get caught, they learn their lesson. But if they can get away with it, if they're smoking drugs or taking drugs, what the fuck does it matter? Haven't we done that? Of course. So why would we insist that they do something different to what we did? We just tell them the downsides. That's it. We can't ban it. We can't force them not to do it, because all that does is force people away. So allow it. Be free. Allow them to feel. I don't condone the use of drugs, etc., 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 but let them try a line of coke, for crying out loud, so they know what it feels like. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they at least tried it, etc., etc., etc. But you know, we as kids, how old were you when you had your first pint? How old were you when you had your first intimate relationship? How old were you when you had your first cigarette or your first joint or your first whatever? How old were you? Come on, people, let's get real. We were 14, 15, 16, if not younger, doing this stuff. Who are we to say that it's not right because we did it? So that's the principle I brought my children up. I was, as a free kid, because I made my life free, because I made my parents' life hell, because I was free. I was free despite the beatings and the batterings and all of this stuff. I was free, and I still have that freedom within me. It's just taken a long time to get to and I don't think I will ever get to the bottom of the trauma that I went through. I don't think we ever will. It's still part of us, but we can heal the scars and we can heal the pain, and maybe we can laugh at it to put some humor to it, because it's the experience. And that's what it's all about. It's the experience. We can't change it, can we? So we can laugh at it and put it down to experience. And if you look back at your life, you'll probably make a comedy, wouldn't you? Because we are living in a joke. And if you look back at the cultures previously lived in a serious way, because it was about survival. It was about living together. There were no demands on you earning a wage. It was about living together and making this work with what we have together in unity. Yes, there was a head or a head honcho in the village or whatever. Yes, there was some form of democracy, but everybody got on together. If there were disputes, they were resolved at a local level, simple level, with whatever. That's the life that I want to live. And that's the life that I live today. But when I go out in the bush or go on the river in my eco farm, whenever I build that, which will be very, very soon, that's my heaven. And on that, I will do whatever I want to do, with whomever I want to do, and how often and whenever, and however I want to do it. And that's what we're here to enjoy. We're here to enjoy who we are, what we are, the feelings that we feel, to fulfill the desires that we have inside us, and to enjoy this encounter with Mother Nature, wherever we find ourselves. Home is always where the heart is. You know, I've always said that. Where's my home? People say, you're from England. I say, yeah, but that's not my home. Here is my home. I'm my home. If that means I got a backpack, that's what it means. I've got a backpack. I'm my own home. I was born, bred, and I left the UK. Why? Because it didn't resonate with me any longer. Simple. So when things don't resonate with us, we end them. We break connection with them. We may go back to re-explore them and say, do we like it again? Yes or no? And we will always know whether we're meant to be there, because we will feel it. You know, last time I stepped foot in the UK was, I think, 2008, 2009. I was there for 4 hours, and I just was happy to get back on the plane going home, because that was the energy that I felt. But the energy that I feel is pure, peaceful, loving, divine, expansive, creative freedom. And I can do whatever I want to do here, as long as I work within the boundaries of whatever legislation says, but I can create here. I'm free to create. And you're free to create wherever you choose to create, but choose the space that you want to create in, and choose the things that you want to create that are from your heart. And as I said, as I was going on earlier about the mind, the pre-packaged mind, if the current state of humanity is that they have this pre-packaged mind, it's a duff model, isn't it? So don't we need to go back to clean all of that other shit that's in there too? So we actually get back to the pure natural state of our brain. so we can actually experience as best as we can what it's like to have no shit in our brain, just our real life experience until now. And you've got this massive data bank of everything that you've experienced, of all the decisions that you've made ever in your life, all the ups, all the downs, the tears, the happiness, the smiles, all of those things. You've got all that here, and your third eye is open. Your brain is ready. You are ready. And if you know that you're following a cycle, and you can finally find out when that cycle begins, as I have. I know what I've experienced now with my daughter and my family happened exactly the same time period in either 2010 or 2011. It's a pattern. It's a cycle. And it happened before that also in 1997. And some other times. So it's following, and things that I'm doing in my day-to-day life, business life, are very, very similar. To similar patterns, similar time frames, connecting with similar types of people. So I've said this once before. There was a thesis published in the 1800s called Eternal Return, or Eternal Essence. And I know that I'm living that. And I know I'm living that cycle. I can see that cycle. I'm beginning to remember more and more of what I did during those cycles. So I have a reference. And when I confront a situation like this now, which I will do because I'm now about to venture into Tesla business territory. So I'm going to be encountering every bit of my experience from my commercial background in this new project. And I'm going to be aware of the decisions that I made and what the outcome of those decisions were. And I'm going to be confronted with the same decisions to make again. If the decision made previously was positive, then I would have no reason not to change it. But if the decision made back then was not so positive, then I would make a new decision based upon the same situation or a similar situation happening today, because that is what we remember. That is the purpose of waking up, to remember who we are, what we've done, the outcome, and what our highest desires are. So with all of that information, you've got A plus B equals C. So with everything that you've done in your life, and with this now new state of the art virgin brain, which is preloaded with your life experience and your knowledge and your wisdom and your memories, and you're conscious of all of that, and tomorrow you confront a situation that is similar to what you've experienced, you know what to do. So you're following your instinct, which is what mammals do. And I think that covers that topic too. That's how I got the mammals into the whole situation. Mammals follow their instincts. They follow Mother Nature. They merge with Mother Nature. They blend with Mother Nature. They eat what Mother Nature provides. They give back to what Mother Nature needs to produce more of what is necessary for them to continue their evolution. That is what mammals do. We are mammals. And we are the only mammal that has to think. And we are the only mammal that has the ability to change the outcome through our actions. So we've got to applaud our children for the work that they're doing, because they're clearing what I believe is the karma from their current lifetime and any past life stuff that's connected to us in this lifetime or ever before, so that we have the ability. So if you imagine this final scenario is, for example, my daughter is suffering from trauma because her parents are divorced. And she's suffering from trauma because she hasn't had a relationship or doesn't understand why she hasn't had a relationship with one half of her family, which is her father's family, her grandparents. So she's missing grandparents in this family tree hierarchy, which she learns every day because she's in society. So she wants to heal it. She wants to understand it so she can process it, so she doesn't carry this with her. So me, as the father, I've dealt with it in my psychology, but there's still the connection with my daughter. So I have an obligation to help her understand it and to heal it and to guide her. And that's what I'm doing. I have the option. I can walk away and tell her I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But is that the adult thing to do? Or is that the parent thing to do? Parents protect their children, don't they? In different ways to what adults do. So I'm then clearing that trauma completely because I'm bringing that timeline trauma from my lifetime trauma into a new perspective. I'm going to attempt to heal it in a physical way. I believe I've healed it energetically. I didn't realize my parents were still alive, to be honest with you, until this afternoon. So I now have the opportunity to physically heal that connection between us, to meet them face to face if they're ready to face the truth around me, who I am. And if they're not, then we won't meet, because those are the preconditions I gave my uncle, that they need to be willing to experience the truth of around their son. So if that happens, and I do hope that happens, because I don't want to come back and heal it again. If I manage to be able to heal that trauma that they experienced through me, can you imagine the effects on that whole family lineage? So it's 3 generations of healing, past, present, and future. Our grandparents and that older generation have already sort of passed over, leaving, clearing a lot of what they were able to clear of. But if we are able, and we have the opportunity with our children to clear and heal lineages, multiple lineages, then we should take that opportunity, because that's what love would do. I'm going to walk my talk. I never believed that the opportunity will come to meet with my parents and to confront my parents, not confront, to see them. I will follow that. And I will update you. And this is something that my daughter is conscious of, is something my daughter wants to do. And I'm sure that that will bring tremendous healing into our family, into her life particularly. So you see, if we don't do these things that trouble our children, if we don't heal them or help them heal, or do our best to heal, or step outside the box to heal, those kids will carry that. That's what we carried. That's what we carried with us through our childhood. And it took us until now to get rid of it. Do we want our children to experience the same as what we did? No. Especially if we know that we can heal it through love. So is that love connection that you know to be true that will allow you to heal anything, and it will allow you to create anything, because who knows what will become created out of this that didn't exist? What's going to manifest from that? I don't know what my daughter's objective is, but it allows us to look at things in a new perspective from a position of love and say, yeah, they deserve the opportunity. I'm love. It's unconditional love. I acknowledge them as my mother and father. I don't acknowledge them as my dad and mum, because they weren't. But I am open to healing whatever there needs to be healed, as is my daughter. So our children are doing a tremendous job, and we really do owe it to them, and in the long term and short term, ourselves, to share and to understand what they feel and to listen. And when they come up with a problem that you know is tough for you to deal with, then it's time for you to listen even more. Because through my experience, what's come out of that is magical. And it began as a fear. So fear, love, magic. On that note, I'll leave you with a magical ending. Thank you very much for watching me. Thank you very much for joining me. And I wish you a happy, yes, there's a full moon coming, isn't there? And a happy full moon. It's going to be interesting next month. I know it. I feel it. I have, as I said on one of my posts earlier, I have Mother Earth running through my veins. There is something incredibly beautiful about to manifest. I'm not talking about this event nonsense or anything like that. I'm talking about there is something magical in the air. I feel some form of unity. I feel some form of, whether it's the light grid lighting up or whether it's the twin souls connecting up, I don't know. But there's something magical in the air that I know that I'm going to be on the move soon. I know that I'm going to be flitting between 2 or 3 countries in the very, very near future. But it's not that. This is something beautiful. This is something healing. It's something that's going to come out of the blue. Maybe it's to do with this area here. I don't know. But it's something that I feel generally very, very positive and really looking forward to the next 10 minutes or the next hour or the next week or the next month. I have no plans because there's nothing to plan. It's already done. Now it's just waiting to manifest. We just keep the energy invested, the positive energy, and everything will just settle down. Sending you lots of love. Take it easy. Bye-bye.